Hola, welcome to Mexico City. Here we are in circuit Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez, not circuit, remember. And for the Mexican Grand Prix, we have a track guide and setup as always. And let's get into the setup first. And if you're here for the track guide, you can always jump using the timestamps in the description or in the video. Just drag and do the thing. And if you need the setup, it's also in the description, and I'll explain to you the setup first, and then I'll show you the track guide later on. And yeah, let's go. So first of all, the important thing to note about Mexico is if you're going to be taking a reference compared to last year's game or previous games, this year it's so much less grippy, so you're going to be needing a little bit more, maybe a lot more downforce than you normally expecting to, so they're going to be quick throughout the entire lap. So the setup that I'm using, the high downforce version is 30-25 wings here, and the low downforce version, which I can kind of survive, but it's a bit sketchy to drive when tyre kicks in. If you can handle it, you have pace advantage over someone, or you're probably just fooling around in open lobbies, then you can go for the lower downforce version, which is just about 3 clicks lower, or you can go even 4 clicks lower on the front to balance the car out. Even worse, I'd say even more crazy version is you go down all the way to 20-25. This is pretty low on the downforce already for Mexico, because there's a lot of slow corners and low grip corners here, and you're probably going to be losing a lot of time in the corners, especially in a longer race distance. So I might suffer a bit on the straights here, but at least I know in the corners I'll be able to keep the car alive, and it's not going to spin that easily. Even if it spins, well, there's no telling whether I'll survive the race or not. Now, downforce aside, there's also a lot of other things such as the transmission that you can always use to balance out your car's handling. 55 on throttle, pretty standard here, nothing out of the ordinary nowadays. And 51 off throttle to keep the car a bit balanced under heavy braking. You can go 50 as well, and it's going to give you a little bit more rotation. If you feel that under braking sometimes the car loses a little bit of the rear end, you can always go higher. Or in general, if you just feel the car is a little bit slidey, unstable, you can try going higher. Don't go any higher than 55, because then the car really starts to get understeery and you lose a lot more time than you gain anything. Suspension geometry, the usual, right, left, no need to mess with this unless you find a specific combination that works better than the default here. Go for it. As always, I always encourage that. Suspension, the magical suspension. Now this is where, like I always like to say, you have to make these changes according to your driving, to your preference. I can give you the same level of wings, you can take the same level of wings as someone, but both of us may run different suspension to get the same lap time out of it, right? Now let me just quickly explain why you need stiff front suspension here, or why at least I'm running stiff front suspension. Is because keeps the car quite stable on the exit of corners and into corner entry as well. Well, it's a little bit sluggish, but given that it's time trial, it's always going to feel like that. In the race with tire wear as well, you're going to be having less grip, so stiffer front suspension keeps the car a lot more stable, and especially in low grip situations, it helps a lot more. Rear suspension, the softer you go, the more grip you get in the rear, but not necessarily stability. So you want to keep it somewhere around 5, 6, 7. I think is just nice here. You can also go one rear suspension, which works also in certain situations if you increase the rear ride height, but I don't like it too much here, so I'm sticking to 5. 3, 4, 5, 6. This was the range that actually felt good for me, and the car is quite stable in slow speed, and in high speed it has just enough rotation that it keeps the car stable, and at the same time allows the car to rotate quite nicely. Anti-roll bar, now this is a bit nuts. First time ever I've actually gone up to 21 anti-roll bar, just because I was kind of running out of options to find a setup that makes the car a lot more balanced through the corners on the exits. And Mexico being a track where it has a lot of slow speed corners and also some high speed corners, the car characteristic changes from corner to corner. And having a stiff anti-roll bar on the front is somewhat like, you know, having a stiff front suspension. It stabilizes the car, and then soft rear anti-roll bar stabilizes the car as well. So this is pretty close to being as stable as possible mechanically. You know, it's gonna give you the confidence to push into corners and push out of corners as well. Ride high. Now I have a few iterations here. The first one is very aggressive like this, 30, 36. You can't really ride a lot of the curbs with this. It's going to throw your car off balance a bit. In qualifying you can do it, but not in the race. In light fuel, yeah, it works. If you want a safer version, you can run something like 32, 38, 32, 37. It's going to be safer. Or you can just increase the front ride height 1 or 2 clicks, and the car will be a lot more stable as well. So don't go too high either, because then you really start to lose downforce in the car, lose cornering performance, and you're not going to gain anything back with that. We're not in Monaco where, you know, you don't care about top speed. It's all downforce there. Here you want quite a bit of top speed as well, but you need quite a bit of downforce as well for the corners. Okay, brakes. 100% brake pressure as always. If not, you should be uninstalling the game. Just a running joke nowadays. Yeah, either way, brake bias, this is gonna be down to your preference. Say if you want to, you know, rotate the car more under braking, you want the rear to, you know, move a lot more, come around and give you more rotation in corner entry, you can always reduce it. But remember that, you know, in heavier fuel with harder tires, you generally want it forward so that you don't lock up the rears and wreck your rear tires early on in the race. So 55, 56 is just nice to use in the race. In qualifying, as you saw, I actually use 55 everywhere except for the S section. I use 53 just for the entry into the S section. It's a bit wobbly. It definitely was feeling a bit wobbly, but it gave me enough rotation that the car actually turned, and voila, you know, magic happens. So tire pressures, the last thing you want to consider. If you're driving very aggressively, you may suffer more from higher tire temperatures. Then you want to reduce your tire pressure all the way to minimum and start working from there. So start minimum and then go higher as you like it. This is what I came up with, and I prefer to run this during my Grand Prix runs earlier. And then, you know, it feels sort of the same in time trial actually, nothing much. But in an actual race, you want to make sure the tires are within the ideal operating temperature, and this felt just nice for me. 5 clicks on the front, 3 clicks on the rear, nothing too out of the ordinary here. So there you go, a 30-25 on the wings if you want to go high downforce. If you want to go low downforce, you can reduce it by 3 clicks or 2 clicks, whichever you prefer. And then always in the pit lane, you know, when you put on a softer tire, you can always reduce the front wing so that the car becomes a lot more balanced and it's a lot nicer to drive as well. Transmission 55-51. Race you can run 60-52. Suspension geometry right left 41 and 5 suspension, 21 and 1 anti-roll bar, 30 and 36 ride height. Alternatively, you can run 32-36, 32-37, you know, 33-37, 33-38. All those are possible if depending on how aggressive you want to be with the curbs. The more aggressive you are with the curbs, the more you have to raise your car. 155 brake bias, 56 even, 57 even for heavy braking into turn 1, and then start with minimum tire pressures. And there you go, that is a setup for Mexico. And let's quickly save this before we forgot, and we'll head into the track guide now. And once again, as usual, thank you for tuning in till this part. And if you would like to say goodbye, well, then I'll say goodbye and I'll see you in the next video, which is going to be Brazil and Belgium. Either one, I don't know which one's going to come first. And if you don't want to, you know, say goodbye just yet, let's go for the track guide around, I was going to say Monaco, but no, let's go for a track guide around Mexico City. And yeah, let's see. Now heading onto the exit here, you want to make sure you get a pretty good exit. You can ride quite a bit of the exit curb this year and the car will stick to the ground. And for qualifying, you can just run wider, and just take the long line, so you carry just a little bit more speed onto the pit straight here. And then the starting line is here, like here that you can see, and then the DRS is going to be activated a little bit further down the road before this black F123 board at the top. So here's the line, and it's activated around here. And then you just want to keep the car straight. You don't want to be weaving left and right because that's going to scrub off speed. So just even if you want to brake the toe, you want to brake it as smooth as possible. Now bring your car over to the left hand side here, and let's turn off that UI, and you want to be mounting the curb for the entry into the braking zone. There's a few braking reference here. I use this the crane. Well, there's a man in the crane. I use the crane as a braking reference here, and as I pass that, it's somewhere in between the crane and the 100-meter board. That's where I brake down to 4th gear, and then 3rd gear for the apex. You can mount the entry curb in qualifying here, but I prefer to avoid it for consistency's sake, and it keeps the car a lot more stable throughout this complex of corners. So you can try that as well. But you want to be as tight as you can on the entry here. Sacrifice the first corner here so that you can open up the left hander and the right hander. As you can see, I'm trying to go as much as I can to the right hand side without losing time. And then you can ride a little bit, just a little bit of this sausage curve if you want to get the car turned around the corner here. And then on the next right hander here, you want to avoid the sausage curve, and if you touch just a smidge, it's okay, but don't touch any more than this, because it actually unsettles the car and you will lose easily a 10th or 2/10 or even 3/10 if you get a very poor exit onto this second DRS straight. Let the car run wide on the exit here. As you can see, using all the track limits, it's going to be really important to play around the track limits here to gain the last 10th or 2 that you're finding. And then DRS activated right around here, and there you go. And that is a quick sector 1, really. Just 2 straights separated by a double chicane here. Now into the start of sector 2, you want to brake at the 100-meter board. There's one on the ground and there's one on the right hand side as well, fixed one on the wall, so you can use that as your reference. And brake down to 4th gear, and then 3rd gear for the entry into the corner in qualifying. In the race, you can take it in 2nd as well. Here we had a cheeky little drift here, which I didn't really intend to, but as you can see, the car kind of stuck to the ground anyway. So game physics, funny ones, right? You can take a bit of the entry curve here so that you open up the exit for the next right-hander here, and then you can take this in 2nd gear or 3rd gear, but avoid the sausage curve again. The big orange lump there, you want to avoid that. You can take this red and white curve, but avoid the sausage. Let the car run right on the exit. Again, play with the track limits. You have to use all the track that you have so that you get a good line for the next sequence of corners. Now here, let's go back on this T-cam here. After you pass that black pole on the left, which is casting this shadow, that black pole, right after you pass that, or as you arrive to that, that's where you want to just tap on the brake and then downshift to 2nd if you need to, or you can carry your speed in 3rd gear and let the car run wide again on the exit. So it's a repeating theme around here. Use all the curb, and don't hit track limits. That's the thing. And let the car run wide. We did lose a little bit of time here. That's, as always, pros and cons of multiple attempts. Now this is where I use 53 brake bias just to get the car turned in for this fast section here. Black box on the top right, this is where you're going to be using as your reference if you are using a braking reference here. And tap the brake just a little bit and downshift to 5th, and take as much curve as you can. This is pretty decent. I don't like to take any more than this because it actually throws off the car. Even with higher ride height, the car actually kind of wobbles if you take a lot of the entry curve here. So I'm just taking half of it. For a race, I'll be a little safer, a bit more to the right, so that I don't want to spin the car out. Now it's important you nail this entry because you're going to carry the momentum all the way down to the next braking zone, which is the end of sector 2. So On the exit here, you don't want to mount any more than this for this curb, because if you mount a lot of it, it actually kicks the car back out to the left hand side, and it can even spin you out, and it will unbalance the car for the next left-hander and right-hander that you're going to go through. So don't take any more than this. Keep it tight to the right hand side here, and then somewhere you'll be in the middle of the track, and you want to again mount as much curb as you can, like this. Don't go any more than this. I'd say then it starts to really kick the car off, and you have to keep turning and turning and turning to the left here. In qualifying, in time trial, you're going to be flat all the way here, flat on the right hand side, and then flick the car left, mount as much curb as you can within track limits, keep the car straight, use as much exit as possible, open up DRS on the exit, and bring your car over to the left hand side. Sector 2 ends somewhere around here on this straight. Now prepare the braking zone for the rest of the stadium section, this sector 3 here, the slowest part of the circuit. And now at the 100-meter board, or as the red and white curve starts, or the black board on the top, whichever you want to use. You want to brake earlier, you want to brake later, it's up to you. Brake in a straight line down to 4th gear, and I kind of mounted the sausage just a little bit more than I wanted to. I wanted to avoid it so I can carry more speed around the corner instead of mounting the curb, but you know, all is well. And then as you can see here on the exit, play with the track limits once again. You can push a little bit more, but you know, you're probably gonna get the same results either way. Bring your car back to the right hand side as quickly as possible. So it's important to nail this corner entry here, because if you run too wide on the exit here, it's gonna ruin your momentum to bring the car back to the right hand side here. So make sure you practice the sequence of corners, get it right, and you'll definitely find a 10th or 2 easily. Alright, for the braking zone, here I'm taking it quite conservatively, and well, I kind of locked up the rear, and the car drifted a little bit here, as you see, and that lost me a little bit of control and momentum. Otherwise, you know, there's probably another 10th there easily. So either way, you want to brake in a straight line here. You can take a little bit more of the curb here. You can utilize the entirety of this white and red curb. Brake on it down to 2nd gear or 3rd gear, whichever you prefer. And then as you can see here, nicely from the shot here, cheeky little drift. But you know, somehow the car was still pointing in the right direction. Upshift to 3rd, and then you can even upshift to 4th on the exit. Make sure you're staying tight here. Avoid this sausage if you can, because that also unsettles the car. The curb is quite serrated and high here. And then on the exit here, let the car run wide as much as you can, and then use the entirety of the curb so that you can open up the entry into this corner, the last corner, and you can get a better exit onto the last corner and onto the straight. For qualifying runs, you generally want to bring the car back to the right hand side like this, so that you gain a few thousandths by getting the shortest run to the line. And there you go. That is a lap of Mexico. And hope you enjoy this. I think there's probably a 10th or 2 in, you know, if a perfect lap is done here with a time trial setup. But you know, once again, we're doing this with a race setup that you want to be using in your career races, league races even, or just GP modes for fun. You know, you just want to troll around, feel free to use it. And there you go, we're done for Mexico. Next up would be Belgium, somewhere in the middle or end of the week, and same time next week you're going to be having Brazil track guide and setup. So 2 more setups coming up for you. We are almost done with this series here. By the end of November it's going to be completed. Thank you so much for your support, everyone. And you know, feel free to join the Discord if you want to, and see me around there for more setups. So take care everyone, stay safe, and thank you. Goodbye.